Republican candidate, good to have you. Chris Mattel has dropped out of the race for governor of Minnesota amid the growing fallout over the Trump administration's ICE operations in the state. In a video announcement posted online yesterday, Mattel criticized the GOP, saying he cannot remain in a party that supports tactics that make American citizens fear immigration officers.
Today, I announced the end of my campaign. I have two primary reasons for this decision. Number one, I cannot support the National Republican's stated retribution on the citizens of our state, nor can I count myself a member of a party that would do so. I support the originally stated goals of Immigration's and Customs Enforcement's Operation Metro Surge in locating and deporting the worst of the worst from our state. But Operation Metro Surge has expanded far beyond its stated focus on true public safety threats. United States citizens, particularly those of color, live in fear. United States citizens are carrying papers to prove their citizenship. That's wrong. And the reality is that the National Republicans have made it nearly impossible for a Republican to win a statewide election in Minnesota. It is a simple fact.
What do you think of that?
Well, I would agree that being a Republican in Minnesota right now and having an election coming up in the fall would be about as tough of a political climb as I could imagine. You look nationwide, and these operations have been toxic, especially among independent voters, and of course a lot of Democratic voters, and you'll need some of those to win in Minnesota. And so just completely toxic there. And also, as I always say about campaigns, I'm very glad the president's talking to the governor of Minnesota and the mayor of Minneapolis, and let's hope we're moving in that direction. But there are some images that are going to last there forever that we're going to see across the country that came out of the worst in Minneapolis. And if you're a Republican, especially in that state, that's just and again, you never want to say never in politics. A week is a lifetime in politics. I've got to say, though, this seems awfully tough for any Republican candidate in Minnesota running statewide to get past. Let's bring in right now managing editor at The Bulwark, Sam Stein, to get his opinion on that. Sam, we saw so much happen yesterday in such rapid succession. It just one after another. You hear about this gentleman dropping his race to be governor in Minnesota. You start to hear Republicans speaking out about it. Rand Paul, who, of course, has the chairmanship, demanding they come to the Hill. Then the president announces that he's talked to Tim Walz. Then you have a lot happened yesterday, dizzying pace, but all of it, especially for those candidates that are running in, say, swing states like Maine, where there is still a nice operation. This is, if you look at any polls, this is even Republican polls and even the president's pollsters will say this is extremely bad politics. Even taking the morality out of it for Republican candidates across the country.
Oh, 100%. The video that you just played was significant. This man surely wasn't going to win the governorship, but he quit the Republican Party. I mean, he quit the Republican Party in the video. It wasn't just that he dropped his bid. And he spoke from a position of morality, saying he couldn't be part of an organization that supported that type of ICE activity, that type of immigration enforcement. And this is someone who actually, I believe, was the lawyer for the cop who was involved in the killing of Renee Good. So that goes to show you how quickly the situation has shifted here. And look, frankly, it's not that complicated, right? What happened over the weekend was Alex Preddy was killed, and then the administration went out and slandered Alex Preddy. They slandered him. And we all saw with our eyes what happened. We saw a situation where this man was trying to protect someone who had been shoved by ICE and then was pepper sprayed in the face, then was beaten by a number of ICE officials, and then was shot. And then they lied about it. And it doesn't take a genius to realize that people, normal people, will recoil at seeing something like that, and then they will recoil again when the state lies about that. They will say, this is not a place where I want to live. This is not a society that I feel a part of. And you saw it happen because people who normally don't really care about politics or who were politically curious in 2024 and maybe, took a chance on Trump. We're talking about the Barstool people, the Joe Rogans of the world. Right. They put out videos and they said, this is absurd and I won't stay silent. Mm-hmm. And it was only the really committed MAGA types who were rushing to a defense. And look, Trump can read a poll. Let's just be honest about it. He can read a poll. He knows what's up. And it wasn't a shock to me that he spent yesterday trying to backtrack, trying to find an off-ramp, trying to find someone who would fall on the sword. And it might be Greg Bovino, it might be Kristi Noem, but this isn't going away. This is a big, persistent problem.
You're so right about people that don't usually follow politics. There are occasionally, we sit here and we talk about it for 4 hours a day. And it's your job, it's all of our jobs to follow the news, follow the trends. And we see things that deeply concern us, possibly ahead of time, before Americans do, because they're busy running their lives. I figured that out in politics. But I will tell you, you are right. This is something that cut through. We played Charles Barkley at the top of the 7 o'clock hour yesterday. Why? Because if Charles Barkley's talking about this, and Barkley doesn't really usually talk politics at all, that's something that breaks through. I was out with a friend.
That's to an audience that is looking to watch sports, not looking to hear about politics.
Right. Exactly. And I saw, I was with someone that I know a week ago, and we were out talking. We never talk politics. He knows that I do this for a living, but we just never discuss politics. I'm fairly confident he voted for Donald Trump, probably 3 times. But we're sitting there and we're walking, and then he just turns to me and goes, "What in the hell is going on in Greenland and Minneapolis?" And I just sat there thinking, okay, here's a guy. He hates politics. He hates politicians. He doesn't follow the news. He doesn't want to know about the news. It's all depressing to him, which I think probably applies to 90% of Americans. And this guy turns to me and said, "What in the hell is going on in Greenland and Minneapolis?" And I just, as I usually do in politics, in the civilian world, I just like, how about the Red Sox? So I briefly talked about it, but then moved on. But I just said, my God, this is really breaking through America. You would see that on the campaign trail, where you knock on doors and everybody would talk about this same thing that maybe people in the press weren't talking about. But here, you are exactly right. This is broken through to people who don't follow politics.
It's this. It's the cell phone, okay? It's the cell phone. If not for that, I don't know how big a story this is. I mean, it's a big story, obviously. But think about what you were doing over the weekend. You were watching reams of cell phone footage from different angles, all telling the same story. It meant that the administration could not lie. They tried, but they couldn't get away with it. It meant that you understood exactly what happened. It meant that it spread like wildfire on social media. It meant that you saw testimonials from people who knew Alex Preddy, who could confirm that he was a literal choir boy and an ICU nurse. It meant that you saw videos of Alex Preddy in a VA giving that moving speech, the last rite, to one of his patients. Okay? It meant that you could watch Greg Bovino and you could see the tweets from Stephen Miller and you could judge with your own eyes that they were lying. The cell phone has changed everything, okay? And so that means that people who are maybe politically curious or aren't looking to get this type of information will get it. Now, there's plenty of downsides to that. We've covered them a lot here, where misinformation and disinformation will flood your streams, or you get misled. But in occasions like this, it is an equalizer. It means that the state cannot lie about something that we see with our eyes. The cell phone has really transformed what we're doing here.
Yeah.
And in this particular moment, this weekend, most of the country was paralyzed by a major winter storm. It was snowing and it was freezing. People stayed indoors. What were they doing indoors? They were watching television and they were seeing the scenes of Minneapolis on the news, and they were looking at their phones. And whether it was TikTok or Instagram or Twitter or whatever it might be, they were seeing this footage over and over and over again. And Joe Mika, to your point of it breaking through into some apolitical spaces, one of the bigger podcasters out there, he's a sports podcaster. He talks to mostly young men, Bill Simmons. He ended his most recent podcast, which came out Sunday night, saying, look, I deliberately don't talk about politics on this show, but I can't help it. What I saw in Minneapolis on the weekend horrified me. And he said that, he knows sports is a distraction. He tries to keep his space free for that. But he said the killing of Alex Preddy reminded him of Kent State. It reminded him of the horrors of the past. And he said he had no choice but to speak out. Everyone knows this one. It broke through.
And you bring up such a great point. People were in their homes, especially in the Northeast, because of the snowstorms. They were watching that. There have been many times over the past 30 years where something big may be happening on, say, a Thursday or a Friday night, let's say in the fall. And I'm looking at it and I'm like going, this is probably going to get lost by Monday because people are out watching, high school football games. This weekend, they're going to be watching football. They're going to be doing other things. They're going to be outside. They're not going to be seeing this. This is something, though, that again, cut through for the reasons that Jonathan and Sam said, and cut through in such a way that there was a poll, an unspoken poll for the most part, but a poll cast over two of the biggest NFL games. All year. You just got a sense that millions of Americans were watching that game going, I'm going to watch this, but
I'm feeling something else.
Man, this is far from front of mind.
All right, coming up on Morning Joe, some of the biggest companies in Minnesota are calling for a de-escalation of tensions. The first time some of the most recognizable businesses in the state are weighing in following the fatal shootings by federal agents there. CNBC's Andrew Ross Sorkin joins us next on the test those business leaders face. We'll be right back.
Terrence Lee Randolph, March 30th, 1947, December 10th, 2024. Today we remember that freedom is not free. We have to work at it, nurture it, protect it, and even sacrifice for it. May we never forget and always remember our brothers and sisters who have served so that we may enjoy the gift of freedom. So in this moment, we remember and give thanks for their dedication and selfless service to our nation in the cause of our freedom. In this solemn hour, we render our honor and our gratitude.